Your latest report out from Startup Nation shows H1 was the strongest half for Israeli tech since 2021. So the momentum in that sector in particular continues here. Walk me through this. Is the Israeli startup ecosystem still attracting early stage capital at pre-war levels, or has there been some kind of pullback here as a result of what has unfolded in the last couple of years?
So first, we have to explain to our viewers how much this is critical to the Israeli economy. Israel, more than any other country worldwide, is a knowledge economy. High tech is 20% of Israel's GDP. That's twice in the US. It's 3 times more than the EU. 56% of our export is tech. So the importance of that sector to the overall economy performance is huge. Now, if we look into what has happened in the past 6 months, we really see that at the end of the day, 2 years into the war, 22 months to be more exact, the main parameters impacting the performance of the Israeli market are actually the global ones. If we look at the performance of the Israeli tech market, it actually mirrors exactly the one of the US market and outperforms Europe and Asia. So we see that at the end of the day, these are global parameters that impact most the flow of capital into Israel, the expansion of multinational companies, or the setup of new companies. Now, paradoxically, we've actually seen, and war is negative in any impact that, obviously. You know, it carries a huge toll on Israelis and actually on the region. But what we see right now is that as a result of what has been happening in the past 22 months, global investors look at the Middle East now, and specifically at Israel, and say, from our analysis, actually regional stability has grown. The risks confronting Israel's security and economy are actually going down. And when they try to look at the fundamentals of the Israeli economy, and more specifically the tech market, its dynamism, its capabilities, the baby boom actually that we're seeing right now in the meaning of a startup boom, new company creation, global investors and global companies are taking notice. And when they try to imagine the Middle East, not necessarily how it is today, but rather in the months and years to come, I think a lot of new opportunities are being opened up for this region to become also a global innovation collaboration and an economic powerhouse.
So, Avi, if that is the case, why aren't we seeing deeper integration between Israel and the Gulf economies, particularly in the tech space?
So what we've seen since the signing of the Abraham Accord late 2020 and up until October 7th, 2023 is exactly that. We've seen bilateral trade between Israel and the Abraham Accord countries, the UAE, Bahrain, Morocco, growing up to very significant level. The UAE has actually become, at the end of 2023, a very significant trade partner of Israel. And we've seen investment flows, obviously tourism and so on. Now that indeed, took a severe hit given the condition and the war that we've all been facing in the region. But what we're seeing right now, certainly after the 12-day war in Iran and everything that has happened in the region, in Lebanon and Syria, we see that the market anticipate what's also happening on the political stage, which is not only going back to where we were with the Abraham Accord, but actually other countries joining that those accords or those agreements, but more importantly, being more integrated economically and scientifically into what Israel can offer. And when we think about the possibilities, about the India, Middle East, Europe corridor, about huge infrastructure, but also AI projects that can take place, the reality that brought those countries into the Abraham Accords hasn't changed. All of the Middle East has a lot of challenges to cope with. Many of these challenges are to be solved through innovation. And when it comes to innovation, there are complementarities between countries like the UAE or the Saudis and what Israel can offer. And if you combine those to solve, joint challenges and really to seize joint opportunities, the future actually can be quite bright. Now, the region has to cope with a lot, but I think what economists, and this is reflected also by the credit rating agencies, that have really not only, they didn't lower their expectations from the Israeli economy, but actually in their prospects are looking forward and are saying, actually the region entails a lot of opportunity. So, I'm hopeful that we will, as soon as possible, get to a ceasefire in Gaza, return our hostages back, and be able to go back to discussing the expansion of the Abraham Accords and the economic activity that comes after that, mostly focused in the world of innovation, because this is truly what Israel can offer to its neighboring countries, but also benefit from great capabilities that have been set up in recent years in the Gulf countries.
Avi, as you know, we live in a region where business can trump politics, but only when the right conditions are met. What do you think, from an Israeli perspective, is holding back the Gulf states from deepening the Abraham Accord integration that we've seen, particularly in technology and investment? As you'll appreciate, there is a lot of concern about Israel's multiple war fronts, and of course a lot of concern about the humanitarian and civilian toll that has taken as a result of Israel's wars. So what is holding that investment back? Is it political? Is it geopolitical? Is it cultural? Are there other factors at play? What is the number one barrier today?
Right now, I think it's obvious, and this doesn't require any deep sources or intel. If we would just look at the public statements of the Gulf country leaders, MBS, MBZ, and others, it is the ongoing war, mostly with Gaza, by the way, because on other fronts, what we've seen actually is a complete change of the Middle East scenario. When we think about our northern border with Lebanon and Syria and the possibilities of the new governments that were set up there, I think they're huge. But from the Gulf country perspective, I think it's obvious that we have to come into a ceasefire and to some sort of a long-term arrangement with Gaza before we can go back to where we were in the progress of the Abraham Accord. Having said that, Startup Nation Central, as an example, we've created deep relationship in those countries throughout the first 3 years of the Accord. Those relationships did not go away. While actual activity, did sometimes stop or went under the radar, the motivation is still there. And it's obvious to me that once, we settle, with the destruction of Hamas and hopefully building a better future for the people in Gaza and in Israel, we will not only come back to where we were, but actually both expand the countries participating in the Accords and go full force into where we were and even more. So yes, it is political. And as you said, in the Middle East, the things are always combined. But that combination also has a flip side, Dan. Because in the world that we live in today, tech is actually in many aspects the new oil. And what oil was in the 20th century, technology and the technology of the future is today. And when we think about geopolitical postures, interests, or foreign policy, many times its connection to innovation and technology becomes much deeper. When that is the case, actually Israel can be a great partner to these countries, both in solving their own national challenges, achieving their very ambitious visions into transforming into knowledge economies, and together creating actually solutions that can serve the world as its whole.